We're going to do a quick recap and then I'm going to pull all the pieces together for you. This is the book that I modeled my management system after. It's a great and easy read, and I do recommend that you pick up a copy. They do have a new version of it out. I've not read the new version and therefore cannot recommend it, as the old version will give you everything I think you need. You can pick the old version up on Amazon for $5. Okay, we've already discussed all the pieces, but here they are all together in one place. The first thing you're going to do is monitor all new employees closely and give constant feedback until they learn your preferences. It takes a while for two people to get accustomed to working together, so this is their chance to learn your style. Be detailed and accurate in your instruction, and always make them repeat the task back to you accurately before you let them begin. Some people call this micromanagement. Fine. Micromanagement is not a bad thing if it's used properly. And when you're managing new employees that you've never worked with before, that's the proper time. Find ways to complement good workmanship and habits to build trust and confidence. Once workers adjust to your style, continue to be detailed and accurate in your instruction, and then get the hell out of their way and let them do their work. Find ways to complement good workmanship and habits, and always be grateful for their hard work. This is where you want to keep them, right here in the sweet spot, cranking out the material installation. If employees fail in their workmanship or habits, be quick to feed them a shit sandwich to get them back on track. If warranted, jump back to step one and start over with closer supervision until they show consistency. Then move back to step two. This is the part of the equation that I struggled to put together, because for me, detailed and accurate had to include exactly how much time they had to complete each task. It needed to be a fair and realistic number, but the best I could come up with was my gut feeling on how long it should take, and I wanted to know the exact dollar amount in the estimate that was associated with each task, so I could convert it to labor. Then I met that old foreman, and here's the missing piece of the puzzle that he taught me. Electrical work has to do with installing electrical material. I know that sounds ridiculous, but let me explain. There are a lot of activities that happen on a job site throughout the course of a day, but only one is going to make you any money, and that is installing material. At the end of the month, your company is going to send the general contractor completion billing for all the work that got done during the month. When that general contractor looks at that bill, he's not going to say, okay, yeah, let's see. They've got the 27 emergency material runs to the wholesale house on here, and the 17 useless meetings, the 14 journeymen wandering around the job site looking for material that didn't exist, and the 4 mishaps that had to be taken out and reinstalled. Yeah, I think we can pay this. What they're going to do is look at the amount of material your company said they installed. Then they're going to go out to the site and see if it's all installed before they approve the invoice. If your employees are doing anything other than installing material, you're losing money. It's that important. So let's see if we can get organized. This is page 1 of a computer-generated electrical estimate for a small private school. This is what that old foreman showed me way back when, and it blew my mind. This particular estimate was generated using Electrical Bid Manager from Vision Infosoft. It's a program I've used for years and I like a lot. There are others on the market and everyone has their own preference. But what I really like about EBM is its short learning curve, and the reporting is straightforward and excellent for managing work, which is what I use it for. There's a lot of really good information in here. You see, every piece of electrical material you can imagine has a labor unit associated with it. For example, here's your half-inch EMT. Here's your quantity. Here's the cost for that material. And here's how much time your electricians have to install 100 feet of half-inch EMT. 2.5 hours. C is 100 units, in this case 100 feet. E is each, and M is 1,000 units. This is the total labor in the project for installing the half-inch EMT. But you can't install pipe without fittings and supports, and those take time to install also. So let's look at those. Here's your connectors, here's your couplings, and here are your supports. And if we add all of that together, we come to about 3.6 hours per 100 feet to install half-inch EMT. Now that's good information, but there's a little more to it. This tells us how much time we have to install certain materials, but if we're going to manage the labor budget effectively, we need to know what that budget is and what the labor value is for each type of material. Let's go a little deeper. Here's the final page of that same estimate, and here are the total labor hours in this project, 1,254.86 hours. In order to calculate the total labor budget for our project, we need to know how much each of these hours are going to cost us. Generally, an estimator will select a fantasy crew to build the project based on the size of the project and the scope of work. This particular project is a simple commercial project that might require 6 electricians at peak manpower. So let's select a crew. Okay, so you can see that I put together a fantasy crew here. Depending on what part of the country you're in, this might or might not look realistic to you, but for our purpose, it'll suit our needs. Once you have your crew makeup selected, you can add all of the wages together and divide by the number of workers to determine your average labor rate, or ALR for short. This is the number we'll use to multiply our hours against to determine our labor budget. You'll want to get the ALR from the project manager or estimator. Take a good look at that number and make sure it looks good to you. Sometimes project managers like to fudge the numbers a little to bank some dollars for a rainy day. If the numbers look low to you, pressure the project manager and see if they'll come clean with the right number. Fudging numbers is your responsibility, not theirs. You can see here that the average labor rate is actually $19.33 an hour. If we multiply our total hours for the project, 1,254.86 times $19.33 an hour, it comes up to $24,256.44. In our past example of running 100 feet of half-inch EMT conduit in 3.6 hours, we can now see that the cost for that work is $69.59. Let's take a look at some other ways we might be able to use our average labor rate. What if we had our most experienced journeyman run that 100 feet of conduit? Can you see what happened there? If our best journeyman takes the allotted 3.6 hours to run that conduit, we're going to go over budget. Let's see what happens if our lowest paid apprentice installed the conduit instead. Oh, now that looks better, doesn't it? But can a green apprentice install that conduit effectively in the allotted time? Maybe, maybe not. Let's come at this thing from a different angle. Let's divide our labor budget for running the half-inch EMT conduit by the highest paid journeyman's actual wage. Can you see what happened? Now we know that journeyman can work on that task for only 3.16 hours in order for us to have a profitable installation. Do you understand now that each task on your project has a labor budget? And the higher paid the worker is that you assign it to, the less time they'll have to complete it. Let's see what happens when we do the same exercise with our lowest paid apprentice. Now they have almost 5 hours to install the same conduit. That sounds a little more fair for an inexperienced worker, don't you think? What if we assign the same task to both workers? This brings the total task hours closer to 4 hours, 2 hours each. Can you see how wage plays a role in production and profitability? This is important because you need to learn to strike a balance in your crew makeup. In the beginning, you should try to stay at or near your estimated average labor rate. Once you get accustomed to running projects, you can start to experiment a little. It is possible to run above your average labor rate and actually bank money if your workers are producing beyond their wage. But that can be tricky. It's been my experience in smaller shops to find a lot of workers who are not capable of installing material at their wage. This is because in smaller shops that don't track this data, employees get promotions and wage increases just because their bosses like them. It has nothing to do with whether they can produce at that level or not, so watch out. The best scenario that you'll experience is when you run a crew below your average labor rate that is producing beyond their wage level. Now you're shaving dollars by being below the estimated average labor rate, and because your workers are installing more material than you're technically paying them to install. Now let's look at some different estimate formatting. The beauty of using a software program like Vision's EBM is that once you enter the data, it will slice it up any way you want. Here's that same project we looked at last time, split out by phase of construction. Here's the underground feeder conduit, the underground branch conduit, and the beginning of the above ground feeder conduit. Now we're starting to get some useful information here. You can see that all the materials, as envisioned by the estimator, is listed here. It also includes your total hours per phase of construction. Let's go deeper. This is a breakdown still showing the phases of construction, but now you can also see each task within that phase and the individual hours per task. Now we're starting to get some useful information, wouldn't you agree? Now, if you want to assign the secondary conduit installation to a crew, you can tell them exactly how much time they have to complete the work in order to make a profit for the company. That's powerful. Let me just tell you, you are very unlikely to get this much detail from your company. Your company will whine and cry that they don't have time to format an estimate at this level until you run one of their projects the Dennis Thomas way. Then they're going to kiss your ass to please do it again. This is where we cross a line. This is where you become more technical and precise and professional than the company you work for. But I'm not raising mediocre foremen here. I'm raising professionals who are going to be able to go work wherever they want and command the highest wages. So where are we going to get this estimate data, Dennis? You're going to create it. Do you want to be a big fish or do you want to be a little fish? Because it's time for you to decide. But before you make up your mind, I'm going to create another video to show you why you want to make the investment to get to this level. All right, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully that made sense to you, and if not, you can find my email on my LinkedIn profile. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. I'll get busy making that next video, and then I'll see you back then. Thanks.